Hello, everybody, and welcome back to College Football Corner. Week 2 has come and gone. Kevin Walsh alongside Jersey Joe Archino. Joe, today we're going to start with the Auburn Tigers. They have really gotten off to a slow start, even though they are 2-0. They're all the way down to 18 in the rankings. What have you seen from Auburn that's really been troubling them?
Look, I think at the end of the day, it all starts with Jeremy Johnson. Sky-high expectations coming into the season for him, and he just has not played well. I think Mac Brown said it best. I think he's not running enough, which is definitely something he needs to do more. And at the end of the day, I just don't know if he's really reading through his progressions enough, really understanding what the defense is showing him. He is going to be the central piece for this Auburn offense. It all starts with him. He's really just got to play better. The turnovers just can't be happening the way that they are. LSU is coming in next, and it just doesn't get any easier. It's going to be a lot of work to correct what's happened so far.
Now, Auburn also really seems to hang their hat on their defense, who truly has not impressed thus far either. What can they do to really right the ship here for them coming into Week 3?
I think it all comes down to just kind of battening down the hatches, and that's one thing Will Muschamp has always done throughout his career. I'm not as worried about the defense because, again, Will Muschamp has been there for a little while now. He's still kind of instituting everything. I think as time goes on, as we've seen with Will Muschamp, things will be better. Right now, the central problem for the Tigers is the turnovers and just the not great play from Jeremy Johnson. It has to be corrected, and corrected very quickly.
You mentioned the not great play from Jeremy Johnson. Now, quarterback who really had some very good play in the first 2 weeks was Malik Zaire. Unfortunately, now is out for the season for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Deshaun Kaiser steps up. Can this kid fill the void and get it done for them?
You know, it's a very interesting one because Zaire was having a terrific year. You could already see the repertoire he was building with Will Fuller, who I think right now you could consider the best receiver in the country. So he's got quite the task built up for him. But you've got to be impressed with the way he finished off that game against Virginia. You know, that was a tough game. It was really a dogfight through and through, and he finished it off well with 2 touchdowns. So you would think heading into their game against Georgia Tech, you've got to have some confidence that he could get the job done.
Now, obviously, Week 2 featured a game that was very important, was that LSU-Mississippi State game. LSU, that was their first game of the season, and Mississippi State looked very well in their opener. You look at the two teams, though, LSU comes away with that victory, and it really was behind their lead back, Leonard Fournette. What did you see from him?
My goodness. I mean, LSU's offense is Leonard Fournette in the running game, but he is just phenomenal. I mean, 3 touchdowns on the day. Mississippi State just had no answer for him. He's such a physical, bruising back with speed who could just break tackles. He's everything that you could want, and for an offense that's so reliant on him, he's really dependable game in, game out.
Now, they are not only, though, relying on Fournette. That defense has really impressed just with that Week 1 performance, or, well, Week 2 for them. What do you think about that defense for LSU?
My goodness. I mean, they held Mississippi State to 43 yards on the ground. That's something that's a solid game plan. You cannot run against them. I mean, they're just so big and physical up front. I mean, it's not expected. It's always what Les Miles does with his defenses. But this is as stout and solid a brick wall defense as you're going to find in all of college football.
Now, we'll head over to the game of the week, which was Oregon against Michigan State. Oregon, obviously, in a brand new regime with Marcus Mariota gone and Vernon Adams Jr. in. We saw them take the defeat. What do you think went wrong for the Oregon Ducks?
Obviously, the key to beating the Oregon Ducks is forcing them to be in long yard situations, and that's exactly what Michigan State did. Oregon only had 123 yards on the ground, and then they forced Vernon Adams to throw the ball 39 times. Now, you kind of had thought that Oregon was going to figure it out because Vernon Adams Jr. leads them right down the field, their opening drive, and scores a touchdown. But for the most part, Michigan State's defense just denied them the run game, forced Vernon Adams to get into long yard passing situations, and that's just not how the Oregon Ducks operate, and it's not how they win.
And also for Michigan State, everyone knows about Connor Cook, their quarterback, but their run game was very impressive. 197 yards on the ground for them in that contest. What do you think about this Michigan State offense moving forward? Is it enough for them to be considered one of the best teams in the country?
I think I got to wait a little bit because based on what we've seen from Oregon's defense so far this season, I don't know if it's one of the strongest in the nation, especially giving up 42 points in Week 1 to Eastern Washington. Now you saw the way that Michigan State just kind of ran the ball all over them. I think it might be more of a knock on Oregon's defense than it is how good Michigan State's offense is. But undeniably, Connor Cook looks like he's had a very solid season so far. I think he'll continue to carry them and have a good year.
Now, we're going to head over to our pick'ems for Week 3, and we're going to start with a game that when the schedules were made was probably going to be seen as a blowout victory for UCLA. But BYU is coming into town. They have found themselves now at 19 in the AP poll after wins against Nebraska and then Boise State. This BYU team has some serious magic in them. Do you think they have enough, though, to top UCLA?
You know, there's no question that BYU has a flair for the dramatic, but I just think at the end of the day, Josh Rosen is a special quarterback. Everything that we've heard from him, people can't rave enough about how special this kid is going to be. And undoubtedly, in his first 2 games so far, he's been phenomenal. I just think Josh Rosen is too good. He's too efficient with the football. I think he'll lead UCLA to another win and start to a very good season for UCLA.
As special as Rosen in, I think that BYU is just that much more special. This team has some serious magic about them, and they have a lot more veterans that they rely on to win their games, and that's why I'm going to see BYU taking another surprise victory early on in this college football season. We look over now to the Auburn Tigers, who have maybe their most important game of the season coming up against LSU. This is a game that, if they don't win, will probably see them out of the top 25. Does Auburn get it done?
You know, this is a tough one because I really feel like this is a trap game. Everybody's going to be down on Auburn because they haven't gotten off to a good start. And after LSU, what they did to Mississippi State, I feel like everybody's really going to be jumping on the LSU bandwagon. I am as well for now, only because I feel like when you look at Auburn, they're kind of like Oregon in the fact that they like the short yard situations. And we know, based on what we saw from Mississippi State, LSU held them to 43 rushing yards. I think it'll be a similar thing. It'll be very difficult for Gus Malzahn's offense to run the football. I am going to go with the LSU Tigers here.
I'm going to have to agree. When you look at the two teams thus far, LSU, their ability to stop the run and force quarterbacks to throw is what they need because of the interception troubles that Jeremy Johnson has had. And they have not looked good against the run, allowing 399 yards in their first 2 games. Leonard Fournette is an absolute beast and should run all over this Auburn Tiger defense. Now, Alabama, who has looked as good as ever, looks like one of these championship Nick Saban teams, is going up against their toughest opponent yet in Ole Miss. Does Nick Saban get it done and continue this very impressive start to the season, or does Ole Miss have something in them and show to the nation that they're one of these top teams?
I think Ole Miss is really going to give them a battle here. Based on what we've seen from Chad Kelly, their new quarterback, I think he's played very well, and it all comes down to the passing game. We know that how difficult it is to run the football against Alabama. If Chad Kelly can have a good day through the air, it's going to be very interesting. And I still don't think we have the utmost confidence in Jay Coker, Alabama's quarterback. But clearly, Derrick Henry is a feature back. He's a very dependable one. I think it'll be one of those classic SEC matches where it's just a grind out to the end. But Alabama's running game and their stout defense will carry them home to a victory.
I agree with you in the sense that Alabama will come away with the victory, but I don't think it will be a very close game. I just think that Alabama is on their way to one of those really, really impressive seasons where they are dominating teams. Coker has improved game by game, and Derrick Henry looks like he will be headed to at least a Heisman finalist thing. With the fact that he has had 2 3-touchdown games already, this kid looks legit, and he looks like he's going to be the horse for Alabama this season. Now, the final game that we're going to talk about here is Notre Dame against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, offensively, although they have not played anyone good yet, 950 yards plus on the ground within the first 2 games. Notre Dame losing their starting quarterback. Things would seem to be in Georgia Tech's favor. Would you agree, and do you see them winning?
You know, this is what Georgia Tech does. Georgia Tech loves to run that option. Paul Johnson and Justin Thomas, they really have a good repertoire they built since last year. It's a very difficult offense to stop, even when we saw them play Florida State last year. Florida State and Jimbo Fisher had a lot of trouble stopping that offense. But it all comes down to stopping or preventing the running game. If you can prevent it a little bit, you force Justin Thomas into passing situations. That is where you stop Georgia Tech. They cannot throw the football. I think Notre Dame is big up front. They will throw a lot of defenders at them and make it difficult to run the ball. If you force them to throw the football, you will win, and I do think Notre Dame will do that, and they will win the game.
When you think about Notre Dame thus far, what they've been able to do correctly is stop the run, and obviously that's where Georgia Tech hangs their hat. I think Notre Dame can stop the run once again, especially at home. DeShone Kizer gets his second career victory for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. But that is all the time that we have. Kevin Walsh, Jersey Joe Archino. This has been College Football Corner. We'll see you guys next week.